Heyo, Stoic here. Welcome to the Bedrock Guide. In this tutorial, we'll be talking all about flowers. So flowers are pretty great. You can use them for all kinds of dyeing. The best way to find them is to find one of these beautiful flower biomes, and they are just, this one has every single flower in it except for a too tall sunflower. And it was a lucky find, and I just happened to spawn into a random world, and here it was. So I know they're pretty frequent, and these things, there are so many of them. I don't even know why you want to build a farm when you can find one of these beautiful biomes. I mean, just look at that. Amazing. But we're going to build one anyways. So why do you want flowers? Why do I want flowers? I want flowers because of, look at that beautiful landscape up there. That's just natural, and you can do that to your own base. You can also use flowers with those bees that are way up there to help get yourself a bunch of honey. You can use flowers to make dye, which is one of the primary reasons, and you can dye your terracotta and then cook it and use glazed terracotta. And then you've got your glass, banners, wool, carpets, beds, concrete, sand, concrete, candles, candles. And then you can also dye leather armor if you want to do it. And you can make it any color you want. I mean, you can combine colors too to make lighter shades of yellow if you want, deeper shades of blue, whatever you want to do. You can also download a Netherite pack from my friend JayCubTruth. It's his Netherite armor add-on where you can dye your Netherite any color you want, any of the primary 16. And it's not really dyeing, it's anodizing, which is pretty cool. And it also can remove the flashing enchantment, so the colors really stand out and it's just not a glowing enchantment color. But one of my favorite things you can do also is get rid of those purple shulkers and make them any color you want. Oh, it definitely helps coordinate your shulkers so that you can find things a lot easier. But you don't want to forget one of the things that no one ever uses is to dye fireworks. So let's get into it. All right, so we've got all of our single height flowers right in front of us. These are all the ones you can find out in the open. They're all pretty easy to get to, and some are unique. You can still find these, what are they called? Oleum flowers. You can find those in mansions, and that's pretty neat in my opinion, but you can also find them out in flower biomes. One unique one is the blue orchid. That one, you're only going to find that one in a swamp. So keep your eyes peeled when you're looking around. But just grab one if you're out and about. That way you've always got one in handy. But your dandelion will get you some yellow, and your cornflower blue. You got your light blue, magenta. You got your red here for your poppy and red tulip. Your orange tulip, orange, pink tulip. You guessed it, pink, white tulip, light gray. Yep, this one's a goofy one. You get light gray from a white tulip. Don't ask me. I'm not making the rules here. Anyways, we've got the oxeye daisy right here with some light grays, similar with the azure bluet. We've got light blue there. And then we also got the lily of valley, which will get you the white. You can use bone too, but this is probably going to get you a lot more white dye instead of a bone. Next up, we've got the two tall flowers. So you get your sunflower, lilacs, rose bushes, and the peonies right here. And when you craft these, you'll get 2 dye per flower. So it seems like a good deal, right? I mean, you get twice as much for something that's twice as tall. But the drawback here is there's not a unique color. And we'll get into it, but when you bone meal it, nothing great happens. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. And you thought I skipped one. Yep, we got a single height flower here, the wither rose. You can't bone meal this one. You got to go have the wither kill some animals for you, monsters as well, and you can actually convert it into black ink. So if you're feeling like you've got too many wither roses, don't know what to do with them, you can make black ink from them. So just to round out the other dyes that you can get, we've got purple, gray, and cyan. You got to do a little color matching here. You can use other dyes that you've got to make these. Let you discover that. Sea pickles for your lime, cocoa beans for your brown, cactus for your green. This one you cannot mix blue and yellow together to make green. Again, I don't know. Don't blame me. Get your squids here. You can get black ink from there. That's probably the most popular way to get your black ink. And bone, of course, you can get some white as well. So those are all the dyeable colors that you can get in this row. All right, so let's talk about positioning of flowers. So the position of your flower definitely has an impact on how well your bone meal will perform. So if we're looking at this flower here in the middle, I'll break a couple of them just to make sure we do spawn. So we hit that and we got a couple of new spawns in here. These flowers will spawn in a 7x7 grid around the center flower, and that's the one we selected. That's the one we'll get bone meal. And if we were to hit this one right here, then we'd have a new 7x7 pattern right over here. And that's kind of the spread of all the flowers here. Now let's take a look at how many flowers we get when we do that. When the flower's even with the plane, you're going to get 3.22 flowers per bone meal. 3.22, not very much. Let's see. This time we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 new ones. That's pretty sweet. That's a really good one. And we get 2, 3, 4, 5. Now this is making a liar out of me. There we go. Here's the average. Now we got 1. So you can see that we barely get any flowers when we bone meal on an even plane. Now the next one, and this is probably the best one, is what if we drop the flower down in a hole? Well, if we do that, then we still get the 7x7 spread around this central flower. So if we give this a test, you'll see that you get almost 14 flowers on average per bone meal. So if we do this, we're going to hit that. We're going to get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. That's a lot. So I'm only going to do this one other time because no one likes to watch flowers being broken. Let's get all these and we'll break this. We'll do this one more time. And let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So we had 2 13s in a row. So I've seen up to 17, but you get the idea. When we hit this, we're going to get a lot of flowers. But if we keep hitting it, we still have a high chance of getting more. All right, the next one. What if we put a block above the plane? Well, you'll get a spread of a 5x5 area. So this is your 3x3, this most popular spot for flowers to spawn around a central one. And then you got the 5x5. It will not go any further out, like this outside range. Now, I had to hit this with a lot of bone meal to get these flowers that are shown. And we'll take a look at this next spot right here. So you get 1 flower every 12 or so attempts. So if I just start spamming this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. We got 1, and we got 1. So in this range, if it's 1 block above the plane, we're going to get really bad rates with our bone meal. We only used 1 bone meal during that, but we had to hit it 12 times before it actually triggered. All right, so looking at our 2 tall flowers. Now we're going to use our bone meal here, and I'll show you what happens. You get 1. You get 1 too tall. So you're getting two dye out of it, or 1 flower, but that's all you get. So 2 tall flowers are not what we're going to be using in our farm, and it's just good to see how that works. All right, so I did a ton of testing and I used all kinds of different clocks, well, 3 separate ones, and different ways of hitting these flowers. And I think it's important to discuss the clock before we go any further. All right, so we've got 3 different clocks that I tested. We've got the comparator clock, you got the observer clock, and you've got a repeater torch clock. There could be more. These were ones I used because they're pretty compact and they're easy to make, so I focused on these. So we'll take a look at the comparator clock. It's just a comparator on subtraction mode with a little loop there. And if we hit the switch, we can see that this thing is cooking. Whoa. And that means this thing is a really fast clock. Now, if we go over here to the observer clock, you can see that it's just 2 observers looking at each other and outputting, and you can kind of tell, hopefully you're not epileptic, but you can see that the comparator clock is faster than this observer clock. Now, if we turn on our redstone or our repeater torch clock, you can see that the redstone or sorry, repeater torch clock is a little bit slower than the observer clock. So we've got our 3 clocks here. And the reason why I wanted to look at this was because, yeah, we think, yeah, this is going to be great. I'm just going to hit this really fast. I'm going to get a lot of bone meal. Well, in this case, that's not going to work. So our comparator clock on average, to see at 5 minutes, it uses on average 7.75 stacks of bone meal. So that's quite a bit. But our observer clock in 5 minutes was using 8.8 stacks of bone meal, which is great. And we got an increase in flour output by 20% over the comparator clock. So already this clock is working better. Now, if we take a look at our repeater torch clock, in 5 minutes it used 11.75 bone meal. Yeah, that's a lot. So we saw an increase of 50% of flour output compared to the comparator clock. So even though it's faster, the repeater torch clock worked better with the redstone devices. So the pistons were able to hit in a timely fashion, and our dispenser was working in a good rate too. So this, even though it's a little bit slower, you can see that the repeater torch clock is going to be our clock moving forward. All right, a little bit of composter knowledge. This is important to know if you're planning on trying to use this farm as a composter. If you've got like extra flowers you just want to get rid of, go for it, just compost them. But this farm, and probably a lot of farms, are not self-sustaining as a bone meal farm. You just need so many. And the reason is that one flower has a 65% chance of adding a level to a composter. That means you can kind of tell in here, there's a little bit of compost in there. This thing's got to raise up, I don't know, 6 times before it becomes bone meal. So if we look at this, if I put 1 stack of flowers in and I got 7 bone meal, 1 stack of flowers, that's a lot. Well, what if we had 12 stacks of flowers? That finally gave us pretty close to a full stack of bone meal. So 12 stacks of flowers to 1 bone meal, that's crazy. And I went ahead and put in 70.5 stacks of flowers in here, and we ended up with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and a quarter stacks of bone meal. And the reason why I use 7.5 is because the farm I'm going to show you will get you that many flowers in 5 minutes, but you're also going to spend 11.75. So we're not going to get more flowers than we use in bone meal. So this is not a self-sustaining farm. Maybe there are out there, go take a look. This one is just to get your flowers and your dye. Okay, here is our farm. It's pretty compact, 6 blocks wide, 6 blocks deep, no, 5 blocks deep, and 7. That's technically a block right there. So 7 blocks tall. So it's pretty compact in my opinion. We do use quite a bit of iron for our mine carts. Can't get enough mine carts, but they do work really well in transferring our flowers. So if we take a look at this, in 5 minutes I used 12 stacks of bone meal and I got 70 stacks of flowers. So I was able to get quite a few flowers in just 5 minutes. I mean, 70 stacks, that's almost 2.5 shulkerfuls of flowers. I mean, that's pretty good. In 1 hour, though, if you've got the bone meal for it, 141 stacks of bone meal got you 840 stacks of flowers. Crazy. Or 53,760 flowers. That's what I'm claiming for this. I did it several times. This is about what I'm averaging. And yeah, that's what this one's going to get you. So it's quite a bit. So if you're interested, let's get rolling. All right, so for this farm, you're going to need 7 chests, 8 hoppers, an observer, a dispenser, 7 pistons, 1 lever, 32 redstone, 1 torch, 2 redstone repeaters, 2 temporary rails. We don't really need them, but you'll probably end up keeping them at the end, and I'll show you why. We need a lot of glass. It's probably a lot less than this, but just grab a stack because you'll break it. You'll keep using it. You need a special block of your choice. Just needs to be a solid block that we can use for redstone. 8 grass blocks. That's where our flowers are going to be. Pick out your flowers. Make sure you got them all. Lots and lots of bone meal and a sea lantern, because sometimes, and depending on your build, it might get a little dark. So you want to make sure you've got enough light for your flower in order for it to activate. And then, of course, we've got 7 mine carts with hoppers right here. and we'll be using those shortly in the build. Okay, we're going to start with our chests. In fact, you can do whatever storage system you really want, but for this example, this is what I'm using, and they're all pretty accessible at the end of the day. So we'll just put in our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 chests in this configuration, kind of a C in this position, a U in that position, and then we'll put in a solid block in the back. From here, we'll go ahead and put some hoppers in on top of each one of our chests, just like that, to complete our U once again. All right, for this next part, we'll get our redstone dust. We'll just put one right here. We'll finish that circuit a little bit later. And once we've got that redstone dust on there, we can put an observer facing down. So you just look straight down at it. Maybe you got to get up a little bit higher, but you'll notice that the redstone dot is facing up and the face will be looking down. We can also grab our grass block now to cover up this little space, and then we can drop in a dispenser right here. And this will push our bone meal onto our flour. Okay, time to grab our glass, and in this case, we're just going to be conservative. We're going to go all the way around this thing, leave a little gap back here for a hopper, and then we'll put that in here in a second. So let me do that, and we'll come back around, make our square all the way around here, and we should be looking like this. All right, talked about that hopper. Let's just go ahead and bring it back here. This is where we'll be able to put in a shulker on top later on to put in all of your fun bone meal, and then we can start working on our rails. So we'll drop in 2 of our rails right now, and then we'll drop in 2 of our minecarts with hoppers. You want to come down here, try not to bump these because they are sensitive. You want to get down eye level, and you can break the rail right in front of it. Drop your rail again right in the center spot, and drop another rail right there. Because you're probably using a temporary, we can break it and then we'll cover it up so it doesn't go anywhere. We'll start making our way around the U just like this. This is so goofy, but we have to do it. We'll put one in right there. We'll break this, and then it's so interesting that the minecart just changes orientation when you do it. I don't know why it does it, but it sure is fun to watch. Now for this next part, we can drop in our temporary rail again, and we're going to need it for these next 2. You can see that sometimes these get pushed, so you got to just do these one at a time and make sure that they don't get bumped when you're doing it. And for these last 2, you can just put in your rail and cart, and then rail and cart, and you're now in there. You don't have to break those last ones because it's still going to function the same way. All right, hey, we're getting really close. So at this point, we can go up 1, 2, 3, and this is where our grass will go, our flour will go, and our piston will go. So before you put in any grass over here, let's get in here and just get our pistons in. 1, 2, 3 in our U-shaped pattern. 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. So we're looking good so far. We want to make sure we get these in before we start moving around too much. Now we can get our grass in our U-shaped pattern just like that, and we'll spend some time covering up all the rest of the glass. All right, we're looking good. We got our big old box for our flowers, and now it's just about time to put in some redstone. We'll come down here and we'll put in our clock. So we want to just be 1 block off of the center, and if you want to reposition where your switch is, that's fine too. In fact, we might just match up the last one we did so that our switch is definitely even with the front side of this glass. But we'll come in here and make a T, and then we'll put in our clock. So we'll have our lever in the front. We'll go ahead and switch this down just so we can show that it's going to lock out. That turns on our redstone repeater, which energizes this block, which energizes that, which then energizes this because they're all next to each other. And if we put a torch right on the side of it, it will turn the torch off. Now, if we turn this on, we've got a loop because the redstone torch will energize this. And then that'll turn on, that'll turn on, that'll turn on, that'll turn on. But because that turns on, it turns this off. And then everything turns off. When everything gets off, then that redstone torch turns on, and then we got a big old loop. All right, so we've got things moving around here. We can come out over this direction. We can start connecting. And I'm going to go ahead and turn this off so we don't hear a bunch of clicking. But I'll put in another redstone repeater right here just in case things aren't jiving in your farm, you can adjust the speed of your dispenser because it will observe a flashing redstone right here, and then it'll send a signal right into the dispenser to just click, 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 and send out the bone meal. Coming back to the front, we can also put redstone up here and it will act the same way on that side as well. So what we can do is just use a glass ladder with our redstone. So we'll come up here and we'll go through it, come up here and we'll go through it, and we'll come up to the top. So right now we've gone 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And as a check, we can see that all of our pistons are extended now. All right, this is exciting. We're almost there, so we can put our sea lantern right there. That way we've got enough light down there for our flower to want to grow. We've got our red tulip right there. Any single height flower can go right there, and it'll be effective. And then I'll just drop this bone meal right in the dispenser. This is where you just put a ton of it in and you'll be in good shape. So now we're going to check to see if it works. Now let's do our fingers crossed here. As I mentioned earlier, if you don't see any of the bone meal activating, that's when the green sparkles come, then you know that something's not working. And so what we're going to do first, and we'll just turn it on, and we got it. You can see some of the flowers hopping around. Doesn't look like I'm getting a whole lot, but guess what? Those pistons are just shoving it right into that dirt, which pushes it right into this minecart, which puts it into double hoppers right here. And already we are just cruising with the flowers. So earlier I mentioned, if things aren't sparkling from your bone meal, you can come back here and just put one click on the dispenser, and that should offset your pistons from your dispenser, and there should be enough time delay between them so that you can bone meal, create new flowers in an open spot, and then the pistons will come down and smash the flowers. So that's worth messing around with. You might not need to use it, but go ahead and put it in anyways, just in case server lag happens to get you, or if you're trying to run it for a long time, who knows what could happen. I just know it's worth having. All right, everyone. Thanks for joining me on this tutorial on the Bedrock Guide. And if you liked what you saw, hit that like button and hit that subscribe button as well if you want to see new content when it comes out. Thanks.